Hello and welcome. My name is Steve Davis and I'm going to be your senior lecturer for Senior Leader. So first of all, welcome to this standard. It is the induction. So the aim of today really is to give you a holistic overview of what the standard involves, show you some of the teaching and materials and explain how the qualification and the standard comes together. So if you're watching this on YouTube and you're thinking, well, I don't think this is for me, you never know. Maybe you want to become a senior leader. So this may be a great induction for you as well, just to get an idea about the qualification. So let's start off with the basics. So you're on an apprenticeship standard, which basically means this standard's going to run for about 24 months. It's a level 7. So the work is equivalent to a master's. So you're not going to get a master's at the end of this. It's equivalent to the master's. Now, true story. I did my master's in leadership and sustainability. I did it through Cumbria University. It cost me in the region of 21-ish thousand, I think. And at the end of it, I was able to become a fellow for the Institute of Leadership, or now the Institute for Leadership. It was the Institute for Leadership Management. On completion of this standard, you are entitled to become a fellow for the Institute of Leadership. A little bit of a sore subject for me, but I didn't have this option. So it's a great way for you to get proper recognition from an institute to gain professional recognition. It's not just the Institute for Leadership. You can do the Chartered Institute for Management, I believe, as well. So lots of great opportunities off the back of completing this. Now, let's just run into some of the main features. So for you to be doing this, I have to assume you are working in a leadership or a senior leadership role. So you've got to be responsible for setting direction, for visions, for governance, or providing a very clear sense of purpose for your organization. You have to be able to provide clear and inclusive leadership. So when we talk about inclusive leadership, we're talking about an array of different styles, and we'll go into those in a bit more detail as the course goes on. You should be able to identify long-term opportunities, identify risk, and manage that. And again, you should be looking at internal intelligence sources and external influences. So this isn't just in health and social care. Yes, it helps if you are in health and social care, because obviously that's my sector. But I have done other sectors before. So this qualification isn't just for nurses, it's for anybody that's in a leadership position, be that retail, be that setting up your own business, or health and social care. You should be responsible for developing the ethics and innovation within your organization. So really looking at supporting a positive learning culture, or a positive culture that really enables the best results from people. You may be responsible, or you should be responsible for budgets of some kind. So whether that's assets, facilities, or basic P&Ls. And that's because you'll need that as we go towards the endpoint assessment. I'll explain a bit more about that. You should obviously be staying up to date with innovations and changes. So again, if we think about what's really happening currently now in, where are we? The end of 2023. We're looking at innovation around AI technology and how we can use that to best support our roles, whether that's reducing the burden of admin or using that for business innovation and skills. You should be keeping pace with change, and you should be leading from the angle of being transformational. So what we mean by that is you're on this continual quality improvement cycle. So whatever it is you're doing, you're able to critically analyze where you're at and be able to influence that change mechanism needed to maintain where you are within your sectors. You've definitely got to be promoting a sustainable business. I mean, we're in one of the hardest times of economics. So understanding sustainability is really important. You should be in a process of looking at how you can be more sustainable moving forward. And again, you should be in some kind of situation where you can respond and manage to crisis. Now, if you are in social care, well, even if you're not in social care, we all went through COVID. I think that gave us a real sense of managing crisis. So we're looking at business continuity and business contingency planning there. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to flick my screen over and we're going to look at the qualification, or sorry, the standards in a bit more detail. So here, this is the Institute Apprenticeships. You can see here, it's the senior leader. And again, we've just run through some of those responsibilities. So let's look at the 12 duties. Now, the duties here are made up of knowledge, skills, and behaviours, and we'll show you those in a second. So, as we run through these, I just want you to be ticking off in your head, yeah, I do that, or no, I don't do that, and I need to do that, because you will need to do a skill scan for this. So that's going to be one of your first tasks. But in duty 1, you need to be responsible for setting the overall strategic direction of the area of responsibility in partnership with the board or equivalent, encouraging employees to buy into the organisation's visions. What do we mean by that? Very simple. What is your company's visions and values? And do all your staff understand them? So in the NHS, you can always guarantee when CQC is coming around, because they always bring out the cards, the keyring cards that sit on the back of your ID or whatever, and it's got the organisation's values on there. Great. Well, let's just ram those in. Ultimately, your organisation's values need to be the bloodline of your business. So where are they? Who wrote them? Where did they come from? And do they actually have meaning and purpose? Again, you can see here, we've got some knowledge, some skills and behaviours. So the Ks, the S and the Bs linked to this, but we'll cover those later. Duty 2 leads on the development of a critical review of your operational policies and procedures within areas of responsibility. So you don't have to necessarily do all of them, but the ones that you are responsible for. So here, we need to make sure that they're aligned to the needs of the business and that they look, that they're fit for purpose and that they are sustainable. So when was the last time your policy and procedures were reviewed? Who reviewed them? Who wrote them? What quality assurance processes were you using? How do you know that they're legal and compliant? Are they in line with your strategies? So are you going green by 2030 or 2050? Do you have external kite marks that you need to have those policies and procedures aligned to? Are you using your policies and procedures, for example, in health and social care, in line with the CQC's single inspection framework? So how are you changing and moulding those policies to be fit for purpose and current and contemporary? And it's not just enough to say, but I have them, I've reviewed them or renewed them. It's the process on how that critical review. So have you done a staff survey? How many people know them? Who's read them? How are you implementing them? How do you know they're working from a fundamental ground up service? So again, you can see here we've got our skills, knowledge and behaviours aligned to duty 2. In duty 3, we're going to look at leading and influencing agreed projects and delivering organisational strategies. So again, your organisational strategies align with your visions and values and possibly your business plan. We're going to look at the transformational program. So this is that quality improvement cycle. So that should be coming out of your self-assessment reports. That's developed a quality improvement program. So do you have a quality improvement lead? Where are you getting your data from? Who's responsible for interpreting and analysing this? And how does that then give you a clear way forward? How does that put you above everybody else with a clear projection for 3 years, 5 years, and 10 years' time? How are you going to respond to sudden change and crisis? It might be new products, it might be new services, or it might be something to do with your customers and their experiences and trying to get some involvement there. So that's duty 3. Duty 4 looks at making decisions around organizations' resources. So here you're looking at budgeting, people, technology. And that's looking at the organization's strategic plans, looking at the visions, looking at quality improvement plans, and then guiding that forward. And, you know, one of the things that I'm absolutely sure on is your budget to do this is probably a lot less than it ever has been. So innovation here is going to be absolutely key for having a sustainable business plan that's going to float and allow your organization to move forward and meet all of the requirements in which it needs to do. Duty 5 looks at lead and responding to crisis management. So again, we've been through some serious crisis. Did you do an analysis? Did you do a self-assessment? Did you do a quality improvement plan? And off the back of all of that, have you done lessons learned? Have you done what next time? Have you got your contingency plan? Have you got your crisis plan? So reviewing all of this to make sure that you are sustainable moving forward. And obviously making sure that you're responsible and ethical with this. Duty 6 looks at leading people's developments. So looking at talent management. So looking at success planning, looking at your workforce, looking at coaching and mentoring and developing people in their areas of responsibility. So being more than just we have a learning development person, or we do X, Y, Z, or we have a VLE, or we do e-learning, but really looking at talent and measuring how talent can shape your organization. And I think there's a great phrase in Mulan where the emperor says it takes 1 grain of rice to tip the balance. So here it is about looking at where your talent lies and how are you measuring talent. So not just effective employees, but real true talent in driving innovation forward and not being afraid of celebrating or bringing that out of people. So number 7 looks at promoting the ethical approaches. So looking at ethical frameworks, so looking at those 8 core principles of ethics, really understanding how ethics applies to business innovation, looking at how we can use that to create a supportive culture and how to have that continual quality improvement, that continual business improvement. So again, do you have a quality improvement lead? Is somebody responsible? I mean, this is a whole full-time job in its own right. You know, taking feedback from staff, taking feedback from stakeholders, writing quality improvement plans, thinking about your PAR, looking at your self-assessment report, coming up with complete ways of being that responsive person to a well-led organization. And again, staying ahead of the game, looking at AI, looking at all of these changes, looking at what sets you apart from everybody else. So that's what we've got there. Duty 8 is about your reporting to the board or relevant governance and management structures. So when we talk about your board of directors or we talk about your management governance, who is that? What does that look like? How do you feed into it? How does governance affect the overall achievement of the business? Because ultimately, most people think governance is just auditing, but it should be so much more than that. It's a fundamental key pillar to you achieving your goals and being sustainable. You know, true governance, as we were told once when we did our training we were told we were the gatekeepers. That's what governance is. You're the gatekeeper of quality and standards. So maintaining that edge will obviously set you apart from everyone else. Looking at duty 9, so maintaining collaborative relationships, working with everyone else, internal and external stakeholders. Now, this seems to be a really contentious subject. I don't know why, because ultimately, if you have belief in your systems, if you have a belief in your organization, if you have a belief in your processes, if you have a great workforce, they're not going anywhere. Celebrate it, lead, have the innovation, network, share ideas, share resources, and see what comes out of it. The more you're open, the more you're going to get back. I used to be involved with down in Dorking in Surrey. It was the business breakfast meetings. So every Thursday, lots of employers came together, and it was called Breakfast Club. 7:30 till 8:30. They'd have a fry up. They'd sit around a table, and everyone would be talking business, sharing ideas, what's going on. They used to share things like rogue staff, rogue customers. Sometimes it's quite funny to listen to. Now, you'd like to think that I was involved in those breakfast meetings. Actually, I was the one serving the breakfast. I've come a long way since then. But I was always so intrigued of just listening to the stories, and it gave me so much insight into business just by handing the breakfast out. It was truly incredible. So again, just think about what is it you're doing to really set yourself apart, to share and collaborate and truly be open to collaboration. Number 11, then looking at keeping up to date with the social, economic and technological trends. We've already talked about AI technology. It's going to have a massive impact in what you're doing in this course, in how you're going to achieve your standards, but equally about the tools and the systems it's going to create for you. And then 12 there, you're going to ensure your areas of responsibility. So looking at your internal governance, your quality assurance frameworks. So again, around your quality assurance frameworks, are you using the ISO standards? I mean, let's not be reinventing wheels, people. We have ISO 9001, we have ISO 14001, we have 18001. I'm probably thinking about outdated. They've been updated. It's something like 19,050 or 2015 or something. But you know, ISO quality assurance, ISO environmental standards, ISO health and safety, ISO HR, ISO data and security. Whether you use the framework in its entirety or you just cherry pick the best bits, it's going to give you a much stronger quality assurance governance tool. You know, each ISO standard gives you a manual and tells you how to operate that system. It gives you the audit tools, the conformance reports, the non-conformance reports. And there are cheaper ways than spending tens of thousands of pounds. There are cheaper options out there, which we'll talk about when we get down to that. But equally, on top of that, there's Investors in People framework, which is great for reward and recognition of staff. There's CPD frameworks that gives you accreditation for your staff's training and to making sure that you're achieving a real level of quality assurance. Excuse me. So they're your 10 duties. Nothing too much, really straightforward. You're probably sitting there going, yes, I can do it, but we're level 7. We're master level. We are going to analyze. I'm going to push you. I'm going to be asking for examples. We're going to want to see you applying this. Through the course curriculum, you have a case study in each of these areas that's going to really make you think. Because if we can get your brain flowing, we can get you to this creative leader that has a very clear vision on what needs to be done. Now, they're your duties. So that's what we're going to go through. Nothing too terrible. Roughly a duty every other month, because it's 24 months. We've got 12 duties. Kind of makes sense. And the way we do it, we do duty 1, knowledge, 1 month, duty 1, skills, the next. So we look at knowledge in month 1, skills in month 2. So that's how this works. The recordings are online. and the coursework is there for you to work your way through. And then obviously we have our one-to-ones and our tutorials where we meet up to address all of these things. So now let's look at the skills, knowledge, and behaviours. Now, the skills, knowledge, and behaviours are really important because this is what your endpoint assessment is based upon. So this is what you must know by the end of the course or the programme. So what you must know is how to shape an organisation's missions, cultures, and values. So that's how to set them, how to write them, how to be inclusive with them, how to really get them breathing life into your organisation so people understand them. K2 is looking at organisational structures, businesses modelling, looking global, so looking at international modelling, and looking at what we're doing here. Looking at other processes such as horizon screening, governance, accountability, technology, and policy implementation. So how we go through those stages of quality assurance. But again, if you're doing ISO 9001 standards, you've got that framework there. It tells you how to write the policy, it tells you how to do the version number, it tells you how to get it written and stamped off and signed off and all of that stuff. So really important. Again, if you are going through some kind of governance with CQC on the single inspection framework, this is going to be great evidence because when they drill down, they're going to truly see a master at work. You're going to be able to give it to them on the fine detail, and that's where you want to be. You're going to look at new market strategies. So again, we know in health and social care, I apologise if you're not from health and social care at this point, but try and link it up with a metaphor. But we know in health and social care that residential homes are no longer residential, but they are much more nursing care. And we know that nursing homes are much more complex because everything has to move up. We've done it as carers, we've done it as nurses, the doctors is doing it. Everyone is working at a much higher level. And we have to for us to be sustainable because there is no money. So we all have to move up a level for this to work. So again, what are you going to be doing with your service to making your service the one that's ready? We've got to start thinking now, because it's no good after the horse is bolted. So let's start thinking. We're going to look at innovation and technology. We need to look at systems. We need to look at knowledge and data and research and program management. Again, on ethics and value-based leadership in theories and principles. We look at the principles of ethics there. K7 looks at competitive strategies, so different approaches around decision-making, looking at that thought process and then managing that change cycle. And we know that the change cycle takes time. Anyone that says you can influence change quickly just obviously has no idea and has never done it. Because we know in the change cycle, the team's kind of divided. You've got those that are, yeah, this is a great idea. You've got those, this will never work. And you've got those that are going to sit on the fence, that's quite happy to throw a grenade in every now and then. So it takes everyone to get there. And ultimately, changing behaviour is the hardest part of the change cycle. So winning people around is definitely, it takes time. We know that. Looking at financial strategies, so looking at different modelings, looking at different cost analysis, looking at different ways of getting finance, looking whether it's direct or indirect funding, looking at different approaches so it's sustainable. Looking at that financial governance and legal requirements and procurement strategies. So again, if anyone's done procurement, you will know it is the longest process ever. But actually, it needs to be like that for it to be legal and for it to be fair. So again, we talk about that, but you must know about that. Understanding the dynamics, building engagements, looking at high performance and working collaboratively and creating that collaborative culture. Approaches to the strategic workforce, so looking at talents, looking at that management is really important there. Influencing and negotiating strategies, both upwards and outwards. So really negotiating, looking at how to get where you need to get to, selling those ideas, letting them flourish and coming up with some plans there. We've got number 13, so external social political environments. So looking at your internal and external stakeholders, looking at political agendas. So really trying to understand how politics plays a massive part in what we do. I can give you a great story here. In 2011, I set up as an international college. I was given 200 licenses worth 2.5 million at the time. Really happy doing an overseas thing. I'd been to Bangladesh, done lots of recruitment, ticked all the boxes, had it all. 2012 government agenda, let's close borders, let's close down the immigration, let's stop students that are paying to be here. And Theresa May slashed all of those tier 4 licenses. Overnight, we went bankrupt. Nothing we could do about it. We took her to the High Court, we won, they go to an appeal, we won the appeal, they then went to a higher court and won that, and of course by then we'd run out of money to take it further. So truly understanding political influences is really important in decision making, because you won't know how important that is, especially with politics. Again, need I say any more over Brexit? Look how that's affected people. So understanding that landscape and decision making is really important, and knowing who our health ministers are, etc., or who your minister is in your area is really important. Working with board and other company leadership structures, so looking at different structures there, brand and reputation management, working with leadership structures, roles and responsibilities. Already talked about crisis management, coaching and mentoring techniques, approaches to developing corporate social responsibilities program. And I love this one because I think every single person has a responsibility for social responsibility, giving something back, being more sustainable, looking at healthier options for your staff, whether that's cycle to work schemes. But we all have a responsibility for being socially responsible. So creating that just makes you look like a good guy. It's a great added value to an organisation, great in procurement and tendering. So if we do procurement and tendering, they all want to know about social values. What do you do differently? How do you promote this culture? So again, really important. And then finally, looking at those strategies in your area of responsibilities. So it's not a massive amount of knowledge, but it's a lot of in-depth knowledge at level 7 there. And again here, some of the skills then, so using those tools that we talked about, so using the horizon scanning, looking at how that allows growth and sustainable outcomes. You need to be able to set those directions and support those stakeholders. You need to be able to undertake that research, so knowing where you're at, where you're going, and managing that complex information. You need to be able to lead change. You need to be able to respond to crisis. And again, I know just talking to some of my managers that I've been supporting, some of the stuff that people are dealing with, hats off to you, because there are some real problems out there that people are dealing with. So respond to those crises and stuff. Great. Being an ambassador for that net zero thing, so that target by 2050 goes back to that corporate social responsibility, goes back to quality assurance around, do you have an ISO standard for environmental impact? If you don't, we can give you one. It's part of this program. So don't worry about it. We're going to do it. But again, just having that in policy, we've all got to change. We've got to be working towards this net zero. So it's got to be there. Looking at those terms around ethics and resourcing and making sure we're being responsible and we've got our positive risk and our risk taking on our business continuity. Again, that's an ISO standard there. That culture for resilience. So resilience is a whole topic in its own right. I guarantee you now, if you're on this program, you're resilient. You've got to be. There's no way you got this high up in the food chain without being resilient. What you're probably saying to me, Steve, how do I make others resilient? That's the key question. So we will look at resilience, but it is definitely difficult bouncing back and just maintaining that positive focus there. Looking then at your KPIs, so your KBIs, so your key performance indicators or key business indicators. I know the KBIs aren't on there, but it's a KPI or KBI. So they're there if you need them. Overseeing procurement, supply chain. So again, obviously part of this program is we want you to gain new contracts. We want you to grow, because if you grow, you're sustainable and the program works. We want you to look at your supply chains. We want you to think about procurement, networking, lots of things there about kind of being more sustainable. Again, creating those positive cultures, inclusive cultures, feedback, high performance stuff. Looking at optimizing your workforce, that goes back to that talent pool, managing those relationships across the stakeholders, be it difficult people or non-difficult people. Work within your own area of authority, work upwards and outwards, negotiating, advocating and collaborating, and shape and manage communication strategies in your area of responsibilities. So lots of cool stuff there. And finally then, your behaviours. So skills, knowledge and behaviours. So I think the behaviours you should be doing all the time anyway. So you should be working collaboratively, empowering people and delegating. You should be taking personal accountability to align your clear values. So as an organisation, very clear in what you're doing. You should be curious about innovation. You should be finding solutions to complex problems. We should be valuing and championing diversities. We should be seeking continual professional development for ourselves and our wider team. But you're on this program anyway, and if you join the Institute for Leadership, or keep wanting to say leadership and management, but they dropped the management part. So if you want to join and become a fellow for the Institute of Leadership, or probably the Charter Management for Leadership and Management, I know that there's a CPD thing every year that you have to, a declaration, we have to confirm you're doing so much CPD, because obviously we have to remain at the cutting edge. So just to recap, you've got your 12 duties. As we cover those duties, we are naturally going to be covering off these skills, knowledge and behaviours. So your endpoint test is only going to be on those skills, those knowledges and those behaviours. So nothing really too much to worry about. Now, as we get to the end, there's a process called the Endpoint Assessment. And I'm sure by now you've all heard of this, but if you haven't, I'll explain it. The EPA, the Endpoint Assessment, is based upon the Institute for Leadership and Management's assessment plan. And we'll have a look at that assessment plan in 1 second. And basically, it tells us that we, as the training provider, deliver the training. When you come to the end of your training, we gather your evidence and we hand you over to the Endpoint Assessment Organisation, who is then responsible for passing you through the exam process and then hopefully finally passing you. Now, for this programme, what you must have for that gateway requirement, so when you finish this block of learning, you must have your functional skills. I would anticipate you've probably already got those, because you probably would have got them at level 3 or level 5. So that's fine. But if you haven't got them, don't worry, you'll do them as part of this. Now, what's interesting with this standard is there's no other on-programme qualification. You've just got to concentrate on the material that I'm going to teach you, take part in the discussions that I'm going to show you, and you will naturally be ready for that exam when it comes round. Now, as I said, when you qualify, so when you pass, so you've been very positive there, you can apply to the Chartered Management Institute for Fellowship or the Institute for Leadership for Fellowship. Now, on here, it does say Leadership and Management. They have dropped the management. It is now the Institute for Leadership. And I think they did that as a very clear sign that there is a difference, a fundamental difference between leadership, being this inspiring, creative, transformational leader, to a manager who is somebody that follows. And again, you can see on there that you will get your fellow membership. So when you get that, you'll get your digital badge that you're able to put on your signatures. You'll get letters after your name that you're officially allowed to use, and you'll be entered onto the register as a professional leader. So it's a really nice title. And like I said, unfortunately, I did it the long way around. I went to uni for 2 years. I did my master's and then I applied. So yeah, but you don't have to do that journey. Great. So that's the overview of the program. Now we're going to run through what does the endpoint assessment look like. So we've done all of this teaching learning. That's what we're going to do over the period of time. We're now going to look at the endpoint assessment. So the endpoint assessment here, you can see, is broken down. Now, the first component to this is, first of all, you can see that there's two components. The first component is that you're going to work towards a strategic business proposal. So again, by knowing this up front, you've got this period of time to be piecing it all together in the back of your mind. How am I going to do this? So here, the assessment method is the production of a strategic business proposal with a presentation and some question afterwards. The strategic business proposal must be undertaken after the apprentice has gone through the gateway. So the gateway, we've just spoken about, that's your English and maths. So you need to finish the learning and have your English and maths, and then you go through gateway. And during that process, we just make sure that you have ticked off all of those skills, knowledge, and behaviours. So you've done your block of learning. So the proposal should be designed to ensure that the apprentice work meets the needs of the business, it is relevant within your role, and the knowledge, skills, and behaviours to be assessed. Okay, so this needs to be a real business application to make sure that you can do those. Okay, so basically, you're going to write a delivery plan and present this. The strategic business proposal is designed to demonstrate the application of the knowledge, skills, behaviour that you've been taught. It is a significant and relevant piece of work that is tested through a higher and lower order of the skills, knowledge, behaviours, and the strategic business proposal should have a real business benefit and is a cost-effective assessment method. So ignore that bit, that's just for the EPA. So here, you can see the apprentice will conduct a business proposal, either paper-based or electronically. So it's entirely up to you which way you do it. I would probably more recommend electronically because being sustainable and all, digital skills. And the strategic proposal may be based on the following. So the need to review, implement a change plan to improve financial efficiency within your workplace over a 3-year period. A focus on next financial year on how you'll take the business forward, increasing the profits and customers, or the need to implement a direct savings or a strategic investment is there. So it's only a list. You don't have to do those. You may have a better one. Maybe you've got building upkeep. Maybe you've got new staffing that you want to bring on or whatever it is. But anyway, once you've gone through the gateway, the proposal should be within 12 weeks. So you've got a bit of a time frame there. So the business plan or the business proposal has a word limit of 4,000 words. That's not a lot to write a business proposal in. The apprentice will have 12 weeks to write and submit their strategic business proposal and presentation. So actually that's giving you a good chunk of time to really write this. And just in case you've not written one before, but you will have written one by the time you get around to here, it does give you the page layout. So it gives you the executive summary, your KPIs, your objectives, your charts, your graphs, your financial planning, proposal, implementation, analysis. So it gives you the layout, but we will have already covered this. And through that, you then do your presentation. And then here you can see the marking for this. The independent assessor will review and mark the business proposal in a timely manner demonstrated by the EPAO. So, support material, outline of the methods, Oh no, that's for the EPA, so we don't need to worry about that. So the second component to this is the presentation with questioning. So a presentation with questioning involves the apprentice presenting to the independent assessor, focusing on the list below. So let's have a look. So here, the delivery is we're looking at the outcomes for the strategic business proposal, what you've undertaken, the rationale, further recommendations for growth, and how you negotiated. And they will ask you questions based upon what you've done. The apprentice will be given 4 weeks notice of the presentation date. So once you've submitted that, you'll have 4 weeks. The independent assessor will, so the presentation of the question will take 60 minutes, so it's only an hour. That's not that long for you to go through your business plan and proposal. You'll be able to deliver your presentation, audio, flip chart, computer, and then they're going to do normally some questions. So typically 40 minutes. So let's have a look. The presentation question is 60 minutes. The independent assessor will increase discussion of the presentation question up by 10% to allow the apprentice to complete their last answer. The presentation will last 20 minutes. And the question will typically be 40 minutes, okay, with an additional 10%. Okay, so it's a 20-minute presentation based on your business plan and then 40 minutes for question. So that's not a lot at all. So you're going to have loads of time for this. So as long as you just know your stuff, that'll be absolutely fine. So that's part one. Then part two is the professional discussion underpinned by a portfolio of evidence. So the portfolio of evidence is going to be the work in which we submit to cover the skills, knowledge, and behaviours. So there, we may use the essays that you submit. We could use, you'll have a grid just to collect some evidence, but basically we'll just show the work in which you've done to the EPAO. And the professional discussion will again be an hour, and they will just talk about your portfolio, so what's been submitted. The professional discussion will have a minimum of 8 questions, and generally they're just going to ask you about, you know, what is this? Why did you do it? How did you do it? How did you come up with it? And again, it can be done remotely. If you need reasonable adjustments, that's fine. You're entitled to reasonable adjustments. If you need it, again, just let me know. We can apply for those. Normally you get an extra 25% time if you need reasonable adjustments. Looking then at the overall grading, so through the business plan and the questioning, it's either a pass, a fail, pass, or a distinction. So there's no merit here. It's going to be a pass or a distinction. And then for the professional discussion, exactly the same, fail, pass, or distinction. And here you can see it gives you how the overall grade is done. So if you pass the business plan and you pass the professional discussion, you get a pass. If you get a distinction in the business plan, but you pass the professional discussion, you only get a pass. If you get a pass on the strategic plan, but a distinction in the professional discussion, you only get a pass. The only way you get a distinction is if you get a distinction in both areas. So it's going to be quite difficult to get that distinction, but it is absolutely where you should be aiming, because if you aim for anything less, then why bother? You know, and I think as leaders, we are responsible for setting the bar high, so we should be setting the bar high for ourselves. Resit retakes, so you're entitled to a resit retake. Apprentices who fail more than one of the assessment methods is opportunity to resit retake. A resit retake does not require further learning, so that's fine. So you can just do that resit retake, and normally that's done within 3 weeks. There's a list of roles and responsibilities here. So the apprentice, so your responsibilities are to take part of the on-learning programme, complete your on-programme training to meet the knowledge, skills, and behaviours, outline to the occupational for a minimum of 12 months, undertake 20% off the job training as required, make sure that you're up to date with everything and you're ready to go. And then the employer obviously has a lot there just to make sure that they've selected us and that you're working towards, etc. And then the EPO there is the Endpoint Assessment Organisation who's responsible for conducting your exam. And then there's a list of requirements for the independent assessor. And then here's our training providers requirements. So my requirements here is to work with the employer and you to support the off-the-job learning and to provide you with the knowledge for the skills, knowledge, behaviours. And that's what we've done via Canvas. Conduct training covering any of the skills, knowledge, and behaviours as agreed part of the commitment in the individual learning plan. So that's what we'll do. We've done your skills scan. We're going to look at your gaps analysis and work our way around that. Monitor your progression. So we're going to do that every 3 months. Advise the employer upon requests for readiness, or as soon as we think we're ready, we'll let you know. And remain independent from the delivery of the EPA, so we don't get involved in the Endpoint Assessment Organisation. Finally, there is internal quality assurance here. So the internal quality assurance refers to strategies and policies that the EPOs must have in place, but that's for the independent assessment organisation. And here you can see this is the level of rigour here. They must already hold a level 7 or equivalent. They should have been a manager for 7 years and above and complete at least 40 hours of leadership management related CPD each year. So the person assessing you is occupationally competent. And again, you can see you've got your progression onto the recognised awarding organisations for that fellowship that we were talking about. So you can get this assessment plan from the Institute for Leadership and Management. Just click over here on the assessment plan and it will tell you. So that's the helicopter tour of the standard. You now know the duties, you now know the skills, knowledge, and behaviours, and you now know what your endpoint assessment looks like. So now let's look at the teaching and learning material. So you should have by now been given the login for Canvas. As you log into Canvas, this is what Canvas looks like. Here you've got your home button. This takes you to here. Now, it does look different if you do this on your phone or an iPad. So desktop is always a lot better because you see everything much clearer. Announcements. So if we hit announcements, so here you can see I've already started to put stuff in here. And under the announcements, we just give you announcements. So that's where you'll get those. They come up as a bell on your notifications. The assignments is what you'll be doing at the end of each skills, knowledge, and behaviours. So we'll explain those as we go through. But if you want a shortcut to the assignments, here they are. So end of duty 1 exam. There's your exam. You just work through that, hit next, and you just start, and then the exam will start, and you work through that. So for knowledge, you do exams. For skills, we do essays. You then have your discussion boards. So in here, exploring the roles of senior leaders. Here, you click on there, and you just get involved in the discussions. So each week or each fortnight, I'm going to be adding more discussions in there so you can have a look at those. When I mark your work, you'll have your grades here. So the grades will come here. So this is your grade report. It basically tallies up your achievement. So as I grade it, you'll get that. You can print your grade report, and that really will give us an idea whether or not you're going to get a pass or a distinction. People are the people within your groups, so you can have a look at those. Pages are all of the pages there, so that's there. So you can see how many pages there are. There are a lot of pages here, so it's going to take you a while to read all of this and go through it all. And equally, I will show you what we see on the other side. Files is where I upload any documents, so you can download stuff there. Syllabus just gives you an overview of the syllabus, so based upon the skills, knowledge, and behaviours. Any quizzes there, your modules are there. So that's kind of the overview. Basically, where you need to be is click on the home button and you start at the top for welcome. You need to complete all of these areas. So you click on welcome and you read that and just hit next. There's those duties we've talked about. There's those skills, knowledge, and behaviours. You've read that. we just click next. And then we're going to move into our presentations. So this is knowledge 1. And again, here, you can hit play, sit back, and it will, or it should play that for you, or there's a button in the corner there. So just as we were talking, why missions, cultures, and values matter, defining your missions, creating your strong organizational culture, looking at those values and actions, etc. So you just run through that presentation. Now, I will be doing sessions on all of those. So these PowerPoints here, for your PowerPoints for your knowledge, skills, and behaviors, link to your month 1. So here you can see we put the syllabus out: month 1, month 2, month 3, month 4, month 5, month 6, month 7, month 8, month 9, month 10, month 11, month 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20, 21, and 22. So that's how it works. You just work through there and do that. Here, you've got your to-do list. You just click on your to-do list. No problems there. If you need to talk to us, you can send us an email through here. It does say access denied because this is the pilot one. Yours will work. Now, what I just want to show you, just so we're absolutely clear, as I go into, this is my background, so don't worry about this. So as let's just click on here. So what happens is, as I go to people, and we look at those, for example, here, we can see what Lisa's been up to. Again, I can click on there, and then I get her report. So here I can see how many times we've logged in, what pages we've looked at, how long we've been on there for. So it's really important that you access this continually, because if you don't, I will know. And therefore you're not progressing, and it causes a problem for us. So please make sure that you are logging in on a regular basis, just doing a little bit of learning, keeping yourself up to date. That's all you need to do. Watch the videos on a weekly basis. They'll be uploaded, and you'll be able to progress. So I'm hoping that all makes sense. I'm hoping I've not blown your minds. If you do have any questions, by all means, please just use the email button or just WhatsApp me, send me a message and say, Steve, can you explain this a bit more to me? Or if you're watching this on YouTube and you're not a student of mine and you're thinking, hey, I'd like to be a student of yours, then just drop us a message and we can have a chat about how you can enroll on the program. Anyway, I wish you all the best of luck. Thanks for watching. You take care. Good luck. Bye for now, everyone.